So we're live with the next session. So we're gonna have the next session, like I discussed, which is a deep dive, on taking you from, totally being unprepared on the Acqui-Hire to getting you ready to be Acqui-hired. So we're gonna have Harshal, my colleague at Headstart, moderate this, very interesting and intense chat with Swati. For all of you on Amit and watching this on YouTube and Facebook, a very good afternoon to all of you, and very good afternoon, Harshal, Swati, and Anirudh. Over to you guys.
Thank you so much, Gautam. Welcome, Swati. Hi, Anirudh.
Thanks, Harshal.
So after a power-packed panel discussion on Acqui-Hire, we welcome you all for another session. For this session, we have Swati Gupta, Acquisitions and Strategic Partnership at Passion Connect. Swati comes with decade-long extensive experience as a consultant, majorly into people's function, currently handling Acqui-hiring process at Passion Connect for Bloom Ventures portfolio startups. Swati, thank you so much for joining with us, and we look forward to your insights, which will help our viewers. Many of them are startup founders as well, to take informed decision on Acqui-hire prospects with them. As such, we had an insightful session on Acqui-hire, but I request you to take some time and explain more about Acqui-hire, brief about Acqui-hire and how it is different from a typical acquisition.
Thanks, Harshal, for the kind words. I think I was going through the session and I realized that, so many people from the industry who've actually been part of the entire process when it comes to acquisitions are actually speaking about it. And I think it's very insightful for the founders because right now, the pace within the startup ecosystem in India is quite changing. And founders are more perceptive to how they would want to position themselves when it comes to collaborations or strategic partnerships. So, like you rightly said, Acqui-hire is very different to what acquisition means. Because when it comes to acquisitions, the word has a lot of financial implications, which we want to steer away the founders from. We want to let them know that in simple words, Acqui-hire has actually been derived from two words, acquisition and hiring, which simply means that a company is buying another company primarily and predominantly for its people. They're joining hands because of the fabulous team that you have created, and it is not probably going to take your product or service on board. So in the true essence of Acqui-hire, it simply means that you and the entire team gets on board with a new company and you would start working with them. So, I think the idea of the sessions today is that we want to actually create a positive connotation about the word Acqui-hire. We want the founders to be more perceptive to, how they should position themselves in case they are considering an Acqui-hire, because at the end, when you are actually talking about Acqui-hire, it's a win-win situations for both the side founders. The company who's acquiring a company is getting a team that is coherently already working well together. Also, there is, as a team, there's a chance that you might have run out of your runway, and that is the reason that you're looking at an Acqui-hire. So this is a good way for you to stay together and continue working like you were doing earlier. So, through any of these discussions, we are not trying to push the founder in any directions. We are not saying that this should be your ultimate goal. But, in case this is something that you decide, all these discussion can be facilitated, keeping in mind what the founders want and what is his keenness to do this. Because again, we are emphasizing that Acqui-hire, the most important aspect is the team. So until as a founder, if you're comfortable talking about Acqui-hire, if you're sure that this is something that you would want, you can convince the team, and that's how ultimately, the team will help build an amazing product with the team that you join hands. Because it's rightly said that, great things in businesses are never done by one person, they're done by a team of people. So it's a fairly new concept. It's a new trend that is picking up in India. And there are a lot of examples that you would read about Acqui-hire when it comes to Silicon Valley. But I guess in the last 1 year, I have seen that, scenario being changing. And a lot of people are now more perceptive and prepared in what they should expect while they're talking about Acqui-hire.
Okay. As you're talking about team and the product, I want to go further and ask you that we have observed that in some cases, Acqui-hire happens with the tech or with the product. And sometimes it happens just for the team skills and abilities, and product is totally ignored. Can you elaborate on this? Some examples or some experience and some trends that you have noticed lately?
Sure, Alchar. That's actually a question, that's actually the first thing that we always ask the founder. So see, what is important in any of these conversation is that as a founder, how do you want to position this conversation? So there are founders who would relentlessly say that, Swati, we are just simply looking at an Acqui-Hire, and the only thing that we want to bank on are the people that we have, and we are only looking at the team being acquired. However, there will be a few founders who will say that we believe in the product, and we know that the value it can bring through the conversations that we may want to engage in, and the value that it can add. So in that case, I would not say that it's an acqui-hire in true sense, but I think within our ecosystem, like within our company, within Passion Connect, we've actually termed it as an acquire, wherein we are saying that the IP and team is being considered. So when I say IP, this could mean the product that you have. It could be the tech stack that you have created, or it could be any, maybe an MVP that you have created with a go-to-market strategy that you want to take on board. Now, how does it differ from an acqui-hire is that, for example, just say, for argument's sake, let's say that there is a SaaS-based company that has built up an IP for, employee tracking the employee engagement in an organization. Now, there is a chance that that SaaS-based model can be tweaked into any SaaS company and can be used by them. So the IP, not in its 100% form, can be used, but there is a chance that 75 to 80 to 85% of that can be integrated in the current tech stack, and they can use it further ahead. So when there is a chance that could happen. So in case the founders are willing to do that, we are happy to get into that discussion. But like I said, specifically, if I look at founders coming to Passion Connect talking about how they want to position Acqui-Hire, it's totally dependent on how they would want to take it. The stark difference here would be is that, when you're looking at something as an acquire for an IP and team, you may have limited options because your IP may not integrate with more than 4 or 5 companies. This is also at the higher end, when I'm talking about it. But when you're talking about an acqui-hire, your portfolio kind of widens up. We are talking, if I specifically talk about positioning it from Bloom side or Passion Connect side, we are talking about more than 110 portfolios here. So there is a chance that, through an acqui-hire discussion, you would be positioning yourself with at least a minimum of 10 companies because of the capabilities that the people have. So I'm not saying that anything is right or wrong here. It's ultimately, it's what the founders want. What is it that they want to position it as? And that's how we would want to take it. Having said that, there are situations wherein, in the last few years, we had a lot of founders who came to us that, wanted to look at an IP acquisition. So while we did position that, and we had a few pilot runs, and there are certain talks that are going on, there are 2 more options that we provide them. One is that when they're speaking to a founder, the founder says that I really like your team, and I also believe in the IP that you have created or the product that you have. So why don't we do one thing that you continue your conversation here with me as a team acquisition aspect, and you can actually sell your IP outside this discussion. And I'm open to that because I know while you're doing that, there'll be a certain knowledge transfer that you will be doing with the IP being transferred, and I'm comfortable with that. The second option they give, which is very friendly of the founders to do, they would always say that, boss, I like your product, and I'm going to introduce you to a few friends that I know in the circle, and I know that for sure they would be interested in the IP, and you can take that conversation at a different level, and the acquisition continues. Now, what's the advantage here is that when you're talking to 2 different companies, you will get a much larger value. Your IP will be valued at a value that you are looking at. At the same time, you get a market entry for the entire team. You get a market parity salary for yourself, and an upgrade as a founder in terms of what's the added advantage that they can give you. So that's the advantage that we can offer you through these discussions.
Perfect, Swati. I think this gives an extensive coverage on what happens in Acqui-Hire, and also I think we understood that what typically happens in Passion Credit or Bloom when you evaluate companies. That I think that you have given a very good flavor of it. So like moving on, we would like to understand on the due diligence process, what typically happens in Acqui-Hire. And what do you, I mean, as you said, Acquihire commonly deals with basically people in teams. So how do you see that the role of culture fit being a major key role or a key metric in Acquihire? Can you just throw some light on that?
That's actually a good question, Anirudh, because I think that becomes the most important essence of Acqui-Hire. I think I'm again and again emphasizing that in an Acqui-Hire, the prime importance that we are giving are on the people. So the due diligence from our side that we would be doing, first we want to understand that what is it that the founder wants. When I'm specifically talking about engaging a founder within a conversation through Passion Connect and the Bloom portfolios, we would want to position it in a way wherein we understand that the founder is very, very passionate about the startup ecosystem. He loves talking about, and he loves anything to do with solving real world problems. He loves talking about anything consumer, whether it's B2B or whether it's B2C. That's the first aspect that we would want to understand from a founder's perspective. Once we do that, we move on to the next step on, what are the products that he likes in the industry? What are the companies that, he most aligns with? I'm sure that he's been following journey of a few founders in the ecosystem. Who are these founders that are more relatable to him? Once we identify that, we understand that, what is it that the founder is primarily looking out of these discussions, where his worth and his skill set will be valued the most, because in Bloom we always say is founder first. So what is the most important thing is that as a founder you should be synced in well with the values that you want to inculcate in your team, and if that is something that you have, you will be able to take it up from there. So that's the first process. The second thing that we would want to understand that as a team, what are the capabilities that you have built. Now, while we are saying that we are positioning 110 companies within Bloom, we want to understand that what is it that you want to position yourself as. Are you a pure tech team that you're looking at? Are you a pure product team? Are you a supply chain team? And what's the mix that you're looking at? So there's a chance that you're an edtech company, but you say that I'm equally passionate about when it comes to a marketplace or a fintech company, or so we would want you to understand that where would you position yourself. The second thing, when it comes to understanding people and processes, that's the most important thing, wherein we actually put the founder in a consultative shoes, wherein we are telling him that you have to understand that the team that you have built, you have to vouch for them 100%. Because once you start these conversations, the first thing that we always tell the founder is that we want you to be completely sure on what is it that you want to get on board. So for example, if you have a team of say 10 members, you have to vouch for all those 10 members that you are getting on board, because in the future, you will be someone who will be leading this entire team once the collaboration happens. And 6 months down the line, if you go back to the system and say that, one or two people from that team are actually not doing the way I had expected to do, is something that, does not reflect good on your part. So as a founder, you have to be sure that the new processes that they will be getting into, is it something that, the team is prepared for? Do they have the capabilities of, understanding the business model or the product there? And that becomes the most important part, because you have to understand that teams that you have set up as pillars for building a product or a business, it is these teams that, work relentlessly to drive the consumer tech space. They also identify challenges that any consumers are facing on a day-to-day basis, and they love working, in terms of solving them, creating new products and services. Why do you think they want to become a part of this ecosystem? Is because of the DNA, the rush that they feel in becoming a part of the startup ecosystem. So, once you identify that, you have already hit the right cultural fitment for them, because it is important for every founder in a startup ecosystem that he gets people who relate to what they're trying to solve and are also passionate about the ecosystem. And in case they are someone who are risk averse and who are not comfortable with the day to day challenges that one faces in the startup ecosystem, then probably they're not cutthroat for any such opportunity, and you should actually consider letting them go during the start of the conversation, rather than reaching the end and feeling that probably this person is not a good fit. So I think as a founder, it becomes very important for you to identify the entire team in totality and look at them, on whom would you want to bring on board and whom you can actually bank on, whom you think are the trainable resources, and whom you think you would actually want to let them go in the current scenario.
Yes, yes, and culture fit is at the core of any acqui-hire, as you mentioned. And going forward, I wanted to ask about, is acqui-hiring very common when a business wants to expand a new geography, or wants to introduce a new business vertical, or wants to launch a new product altogether? So, is it very common in these aspects, or it's otherwise as
See, Harshal, when we are specifically talking about Acquihire in the Silicon Valley, these are the prime reasons that the companies would want to look at an Acquihire. They would say that we are setting up our business probably outside the US, or we are expanding into a entire new business line, or the tech team is expanding, and they would want to look at an Acquihire. What has happened in the last 6 months that we have seen the changes happening in India is that founders here have now become acceptable to looking at Acquihire as one form of hiring people, getting a team on board who is cohesive enough, who has already worked together, who has delivered results in the past, which they think that makes sense. So obviously the true essence of an Acquihire is when you are looking at expanding into a new geography, or you're looking at expanding into a new business, or you are looking at expanding into an entire new tech space that you would want. So obviously Acquihire becomes a key aspect that they would want to look at. So founders are I think now in India they have become perceptive to that change. They understand that, for example, if they're looking at hiring, say, a tech team of, say, 70 people, now there is a chance that they may want to just ramp their HR and say that, in the next 4 or 5 months, we have to get 70 folks on board. And the other advantage that they could look at is an Acqui-hire, wherein they probably get 2 or 3 teams on board with 20 member each. And these teams could actually be on board, say, within the next 3 months. And they can actually start working with you on day zero, because as teams, they have already worked cohesively together. They know, what to expect out of the leader. And you do not have to waste a lot of time in terms of settling the new team or integrating the new team. So, from a founder perspective, he has kind of understood that gap, and he wants to bridge that by getting in a team that has already worked together, rather than waiting for each individual coming on board and then starting the project.
Perfect, Swati, perfect. Swati, so we understand that there are quite a lot of startup founders who are there. As part of the session. So for them, like, how do you? What are the 3 or 4 line items? 3 or 4 advice that you would give how they can create an internal capability to generate a higher value for their teams, for them and for the teams.
Sure. Anirudh, I think it's a very subjective question on how they would want to structure it, because I think no founder, when they start, would have Acqui-hire in their mind whenever they're starting a team. But I think I would still go back to the same answer, where I'm saying that, why don't we, whenever we are building up a new product, a new team or business, the only thing that we can bank on is the people that we have on board. So as founders, always invest in the people that you are getting on board, not with a vision of, that person is going to be with you for a short-term 6 months project of the deadlines that you have in mind. Always think of that person coming on board with you from a long-term perspective, whose upskilling is your responsibility. You have to ensure that, this person that you are getting on board, you are making him see a journey along with the company that you are growing. And wherever you go, you will actually be taking this individual along with you. So, as a founder, I would say the first and the prime important thing here is that you should always invest in your people, always look at good people. Not, this is not from an educational background or a skills perspective, but this is more from a perspective wherein, you would want to build up an individual who is passionate about the business that you are trying to get into, and who understands the nitty-gritties or the challenges that one faces in a startup ecosystem. That's the first thing. The second thing, I think, as a founder, which is the most important thing here, you should be a tad bit less emotional and about this whole process of an Acqui-Hire. Because when you're talking about Acqui-Hire, in your mind, you're actually talking about getting an exit. It may not be the most favorable exit that you're looking at, but look at it from a perspective wherein you are part of the ecosystem. You are right now looking at a pie, just a small piece of the pie. There's a chance that you want to be happy with getting that piece, or there's a chance that you want to look at the larger piece of the pie. So a lot of times what I have realized in the last 1 year is that just being out of your runway is not the only reason that why you would want to look at an Acqui-Hire. You may want to look at it only because you believe in the system that you're trying to build, and you want to join hands with somebody who has already scaled it up to a 10x or a 50x, and you feel that working together will help you gain as much knowledge as that person has already gained, and long-term sustainability into the market. So I feel that as founders, you should be less emotional, less attached to the product or the business that you are trying to build. And I think the third thing is that you want to be the decision maker here. A lot of times we have seen that, when founders would come to us, they would always do a to and fro between the investors and the founders. So we always advise them, to look at this scenario from a personal gain perspective. You should be the one who's making a decision here, and you should be comfortable in talking about anything related to an Acqui-Hire. If you truly believe in this, you should be in a position to convince your investors as well. I think these are the top things that we want the founders to look at, and probably build those capabilities within the team as well.
Okay, yeah. Now I want to move on to very specific people's function related question. What kind of team composition or skill composition is highly sought after in recent trends, and any examples of that?
This is, I think, the most simple one. If you pick up any founder from the ecosystem, he would say that his biggest pain area is the tech teams. So I think tech and product capabilities are the highest rated team capabilities that any founder is looking at, because for him tech is the backbone of the product that they're trying to create. The reason why we have so many companies just on our fingertip is because of the tech enablement that the team has done. So for most of the companies that we have seen in our portfolio, we feel that tech and product becomes the backbone, and that's where majorly they are looking at getting a team on board, when they are looking at an Acqui-Hire. We actually did a very recent Acqui-Hire around the month of February, wherein we actually had all the founders who were IIT pass outs, and the entire team was actually through bids and everything. And those are the kind of teams that the founders would love to have on board, not majorly because of the background they have built. Irrespective of the background, there were a few founders who were who had moved on into strategy and then from the tech capabilities, but they understood tech. So those are the kind of teams that founders are looking at. They are very willing to speak to anyone who understands anything related to tech, irrespective of the background as well.
Perfect, Swati. I think we have almost come to towards the end of the session. So I mean, we just wanted to get any of your closing remarks, because already we are almost in the post-pandemic stage, whereby vaccinations all around the corner, and I think in India and in most of the states, I think people are getting vaccinated. So with that thing. So do you think there would be a change or a shift in mind with respect to people or startups getting acqui-hired? So do you think that that will get slowed down, or is there any specific sectors you think that would still be a boom in terms of getting acqui-hired or acqui-hiring? Can you throw some light on that?
Because we saw a lot of acquisition acquihires in previous year. Do you think this trend to continue this?
I think, Harshal, yes, the trend is here to stay. Now that a lot of founders in the system have kind of warmed up to, what are the advantages that an acqui-hire or acquisition can build in, the trend here is, of course, to stay, because I think if we go back an year, both the sides, when we are talking about an acquirer or an acquiree company, they were not aware of how this can be structured for them. So, I think that's what we are trying to do here, is that we are trying to create a formal platform wherein we want to look at companies not only getting into a conversation, maybe just one or two conversations, but we are trying to engage them into at least minimum of 5 to 6 conversations. While we are doing that, there's a lot of knowledge transfer that has happened. So earlier, what would happen is that when you would speak to a founder, just understand whether or not they are keen on looking at an acqui-hire. And this is, I'm talking about both sides, because there were a lot of apprehensions when it came to acqui-hire or acquisition. The founder would say that, I have certain things in mind. I don't know the team that I get on board, will they still be keen? There's a chance that even though they get on board with me, and if I pick up an entire team, together they are still working on a common business idea, and after a year they would say that I want to leave this. So, there were a lot of uncomfortable attributes related to how the founders will feel about it. But I think in the last 1 year with the pandemic, people have actually realized the inherent benefits an acqui-hire can offer both sides. So I think it's a trend that they really want to pick up. In fact, we also have a lot of large companies, unicorns, who are actually reaching out to us, wherein they want to actively look at acqui-hire as one of the major, hiring technique in the coming year, which is year 2021. A few sectors which I believe that, that are actually benefiting a lot. EdTech is one of the major sector that has benefited. If we actually talk about one of the companies in our portfolio, they have done a lot of them in the last year, and they're yet, looking at it. Their fintech, of course, is another industry who is actively exploring conversations here, because specifically in fintech and edtech, what is happening is that there are a lot of companies who have come up with different capabilities on how they would want to solve the problem. For them, the end result is same, that they are trying to target a consumer wherein they want to make life easier, either in the edtech sector or the fintech sector. So joining hands would only be beneficial for both sides. There are a lot of B2B SaaS companies that we have seen are picking up on this trend, and they actually want to look at this as one of the major, technique of hiring. The other area where we feel that a lot of companies are coming in now, because of the edtech boom that India has seen, a lot of companies from the Southeast Asia market or the South Korea market are actually looking at expanding in India. And they're actually considering acqui-hire as one of the key things to, look at the teams and hiring the teams. So, in my opinion, acqui-hire is a trend that is here to stay. And I'm sure that although we were the first VC, talent unit incubated within a VC that started this formally, I'm sure that there'll be a lot of companies who will now be setting up acqui-hire as one of the key focus areas for HR to look at larger set of teams being acquired and coming on board.
Yeah, it was very insightful session, and thank you so much everyone who have joined here and on different social media platform for joining for this session. We look forward to your feedback and arranging more such insightful session under Headstart M&A initiative. And if you are looking to be hired, reach out to us on any of our channels or any of the platforms. Thank you so much, Swati, for your time and for sharing your thoughts from first-hand experience that you have on this process. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, Harshal. Thanks, Harshal. I think it was an insightful session, and I'm glad that I could be part of this.
Thanks a lot, Swati. Thanks a lot for your time.